Hello there, and welcome to Grounded Health and Wellness. My name is Kate, and for today's episode, I wanted to gift you all a practice that maybe if you're watching this close to when the recording is going live, we are coming into holiday season, and sometimes all of us need a little bit of a reprieve, an escape, a pause, a sacred pause to reconnect to ourselves. So I thought I would share one of my previous practices through my other business, Yoga with Kate, where I take the group through a gentle yoga practice. So it's entirely accessible. It's a seated or lying down practice for myofascial release, gentle movement, and then we end the practice with a short guided meditation. So I thought this might be a nice way for you to give back to yourself as we come into the holiday season. The practice is an hour. But by all means, you can pause it, return to it as often as you'd like. It will be posted here for your use. And the only caveat for the practice is that you do require props. So for the myofascial release, I do utilize these silicone balls. They're manufactured by a company called RAD. So you can use those if you have Pilates balls at home that are kind of a similar constitution. Some of my students use the yoga cork balls. Those I will preface just by saying that they can be a little intense for the work that we're doing because we want the body to feel safe. And if the sensation is too intense, then the body will tense and you won't be able to fully receive the benefit of that softening of those tissues. So tennis balls as well also work. If you have those around the house, they have a little bit more resistance. Any other kind of inflatable ball, you can use those. I've even had some students that will roll up a pair of socks and use that because again, the intensity on those particular tender areas are sometimes enough. I would also recommend a yoga block or something similar like a sturdy book, a blanket, and if you have a bolster and you'd like to use that as well in your practice, then please do so. So enjoy, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or leave a comment down below. So be sure to like and share this video with someone you love so that they can also give back to themselves in this kind of very busy overburdened time of the year, and really anytime. Come to this practice whenever you need it. So it is there to support you. I look forward to hearing from you if you have any comments about the practice. And if not, I will be back here again next week with one final video for 2025 before I break for the new year. So look forward to hearing from you then. Bye bye for now. To begin with a classical style of meditation. And then we will move through some movement practice, specifically with the therapy balls. So we'll mostly be either seated or laying down, not a lot of standing, actually no standing today. And then we'll end with another closing classical form of meditation. So if these are new for you, just ask you to explore, see how they feel, and always making sure that if anything does begin to feel uncomfortable or strenuous at all, that you just break your practice and find something that works for you. So to begin, we will start in the seated position. So finding a place to get comfortable. Again, making sure that the knees come to rest on the ground. The hips are a little bit higher. And then you're gently rolling the pelvis forward to encourage this tall length of spine. And then as you set up for that, sometimes the shoulders like to follow the body. So we settle in there and allow the shoulders to just sink down. And then bring a softness to the belly. No holding or gripping here. And then as you drop into your practice, perhaps closing the eyes to begin, only if that feels right for you. And as you begin to follow the breath as it travels in and out of the nose, just take a inventory for yourself on how the physical body is feeling today. If you notice any areas that are tending to feel overworked or fatigued, or even just tender, invite the breath to those places and just allow some exploration for this expansion. A gentle yawning, maybe creating a little bit more room for the breath to circulate into those corners. And now, where you reside in your seat, I invite you to engage all the muscles in your body. So we'll begin with just curl the toes, begin to flex through the calves, tightening through the quads, your thighs, and then hands, make fists with your hands. Bring the arms in close to your body. Begin to tense through the abdomen. And then tightening through the face, clench the jaw, feel all this engagement from head to toe. Take a breath here. And then release everything. Coming back into a place of softness. And maintaining all the while this attention to your breath. We'll begin to explore our Tratic Dharana this morning. So as we perform meditation, the true practice and the classical style is actually our dharana. So ultimately what this translates to from Sanskrit is a concentration exercise. And I feel that that's why often people tend to shy away from meditation, because they feel that they can't do it correctly. I can't get out of my thoughts, but really you're just picking something to concentrate on for a set amount of time. And there are multiple formats that we could explore here, but for this morning, we're going to work with our Nasikagra Drishti. So this involves a gaze down the tip of the nose. And what I'd like to just give you a little bit of explanation on before we explore that is it does require some engagement through the occipital muscles, so through your eyes. And some people will find, if this is a newer practice for them, that the eyes can tend to feel a little bit strained. So perhaps as you begin to explore this, you only focus your gaze for maybe a few seconds, maybe a few breaths. And if you notice that this becomes strenuous for you, just close the eyes again and release the gaze and then return back. So you can explore returning and leaving, returning and leaving. And again, that within itself is our practice of dharana, that concentration effort. So don't feel that it has to be this solid amount of time that you're completely engaged in the gaze itself. So here we go. Begin to just soften through the breath, closing the eyes if they weren't already. And slowly follow an inhale into the body as you soften through the abdomen. And gently expelling that exhale out, feel the back body begin to soften as the front body begins to receive, broaden, welcome. Follow through a few more inhales and exhales. You can bring first finger and thumb together as you rest your hands on your knees into our chin mudra. And then when ready, begin to gently open the eyes. Connect yourself with a soft gaze. And with the eyes open and taking in your surroundings, bring your attention back to your breathing. And then when ready, begin to draw your glance towards the bridge of your nose and down the bridge of your nose. So perhaps exploring, you notice seeing the edges of the nostrils on each side. The glance is a little bit reaching from the outer edges of left to right eye. And where in the body has any tension crept back up. Follow your breath in and out. And explore how this may feel for you with your gaze affixed down the nose. Our Nasikagra Drishti helps us release and relieve stress. It's also a remedy for one who suffers headaches, migraines. And with most of our dharana practices, this works on freeing up negative thoughts, emotions. So we gently bring concentration back to our gaze and the breath. Tratak Dharana is also a beautiful practice for anyone who is challenged with insomnia. When we practice this constant reverting of attention, in this case through gaze and breath, we begin to quiet through the subconscious mind and sometimes the active mind. It pulls us out of thinking as we begin to come into feeling. Maybe resting the eyes. If you need a break there, you can always close off your gaze. Allow the eyes to just return to center. Again, just explore how this feels for you. And how is the quality of your breath? If thoughts begin to arise, perhaps the mind speak redirects to the simple word of inhale, exhale. Some well-seasoned pranayama practitioners have reported with this specific style of tratic where their eyes have actually improved as far as visualization. So if maybe prescriptive glasses, through practicing this dharana over time and the strengthening of the eyes, it's actually proven a physical kind of enhancement. So it's interesting as we work through these various practices, things where we can just incorporate better wellness into the physical body, mental body, and the breath, our spirit. Just follow through maybe 5 more breaths here. And as you approach that last cycle of breath, you can begin to release the gaze away from the nose and just maybe lift the eyes gently a little bit ahead of you, still with soft gaze. And then gently closing the eyes if that feels welcome. Scanning the body. Noticing any waves of calm that maybe have entered into the physical body, or maybe just through the thoughts that you brought to your mat to begin your practice. And then gently you can open your eyes, release the mudras from the hands. Great job. We're going to transition down to our backs on our mat. And if you were using, like I was, any blankets or things like that, I would just take some time to move those off and away. And then as we come into our first exploration with our ball work this morning, it's really, again, a self-led practice as far as which density of the surface you would like to use as we get into these muscles. And always remembering, if you want a larger surface area, you reach for that inflatable ball, which just covers more area. Or if that's not intense, you can use both balls together on the spot that you're working on. And for me this morning, I'm going to begin with the raw ball. And as we come to lay down, begin to ground through the back body, feeling your sacrum balanced from left to right. Perhaps the gentle curve of your low back is just above the floor. Back ribs supported beneath you. And gently tuck that chin so that the back of your skull is well grounded and embraced by the floor. And then reaching for whichever ball you're going to open your practice with, taking it in the right hand. Send the shoulders down towards the floor. So make sure that you're not unconsciously holding them upward. And then we're going to take this ball and basically
take it right to the outside of your shoulder, so where you feel this rounding of the shoulder, and then gently roll the ball inward so you're underneath the collarbone. You're kind of in this pocket area adjacent to the armpit. And then you can feel where that collarbone is and where the shoulder begins. And then just begin to apply a little bit of pressure with the ball. And then rolling the ball down and towards the center of your sternum. So we're getting into the pectoral muscle here. So right above the breastbone, as you roll from outside to inside, you might come across some areas that begin to feel somewhat tender, and feel free to explore those. You can add some little circular motions. Again, this is your practice and really your self-massage. So areas where we kind of tension has built up, or maybe there's some tighter tissues, will vary for everyone. So don't be less focused rather on, am I in the right area, and turn inwardly and feel as you roll over particular areas in that group of muscles, and where maybe you need to pause, applying a healthy, gentle amount of pressure, so that as you breathe in and out and the chest begins to rise and lower, you somewhat feel a softening or a broadening or even a widening to those groups of muscles. Let's explore a couple more breaths here on this side. Make sure that the backs of the left arm are soft and released here. You're not actively holding through triceps or into the shoulder. Great job. And then just switching the ball over, you're going to extend your right arm off to the side and do the same thing on the other side. So begin on the rounding of your right shoulder and then rolling that ball kind of on a diagonal down towards where your sternum meets, just hovering above the breastbone. And I tend to notice in this practice, especially when we get into this myofascial release, the dominant side of your body tends to, I find, tends to be a little bit more sticky or lumpy, because we're just overusing these muscles time after time, which is interesting because in our yoga practice, I find for myself that the opposite is true. So my left side, my non-dominant side, is the one that tends to be more stiff and sticky when we get into things of range of motion and flexibility. So I find that, maybe you find that in your exploration. So what's held in a muscular level for energies that are trapped or tight versus joints or mobility? Do you notice that from dominant versus non-dominant? Maybe you don't find a difference at all. And again, it's just all part of the journey. Take some time to pause and just hold enough pressure on parts that are speaking a little bit louder. And if you enjoy this particular region, as our, journey continues for another day, or as you continue to work with these therapy balls, you can always just think of applying more weight to the areas that we work on through sequence. So you can do this exact same area on your belly and just begin to place the ball on the pectoral muscle, and then roll, hold a space, roll, hold a space, and the weight of your body just adds a little bit more. Or you can stand facing a wall and do the same thing and get into these areas. Okay, good job. And then finishing up, we're now going to move to 2 balls or your large one, again, depending on how tender you are in the back. We're going to shift to the back body. So bending through the knees, just ground the feet down. And then taking the balls, you're going to start to put them towards your back. So where the back is reaching as far as you're lifting kind of up off of your mat, think top of the shoulder blades and begin to explore how this feels. Maybe you already noticed some areas that are a little bit interesting. And then release the head back down. Now, if you already feel that intensity and you're not enjoying it enough to be able to soften, then you can grab a block and slip it underneath your head just to give the head a little bit more height. So explore what works for you, or you can also shift away from the 2 grab balls and just explore the inflatable ball. So take a moment here to just feel how those land on either side of the spine. And again, we're underneath, just below the shoulders, like the tops of your shoulders, but at the top of where your shoulder blades kind of begin. And then on the next breath, maybe lift the arms up overhead and begin to cross the arms. Doesn't matter which arm is on top as you hug your shoulders here. So we're broadening into the back. And stay with the breath here. Explore allowing the shoulders to just sink heavy as your weight bears on top of the support, the prop below you. And if you're not feeling a lot of intensity here, you're welcome to add your movement. So you can gently send energy down to the feet to lift the hips up. And then you can roll the body up and down ever so gently, but we don't want to go too far. So we're really concentrating in this upper back. So if you are adding some movement here, just little shifts up and down. Or perhaps you want to explore left to right. This movement is very subtle. And again, remember, if you move and you feel that, oh, that's really tender, and we want to avoid that mostly because then the body is going to be gripping and holding, and you're not going to be able to allow any softening for that fascial tissue to release. We need to let go of holding in order to get into these deep tissues. Take a few more breaths here. And then bring the arms back up overhead and just switch your grip. So whichever arm was on top before, just change that around for yourself. And listen. Was one side a little bit quieter than the other? Can you allow the lower back, the lower arcing in your lumbar spine to begin to just soften to the floor? And if you need that movement to explore different areas, feel free to do that. Make sure that you're not holding any muscles through the glutes or into the thighs. You want soft legs and buttocks here. Feel the shoulder blades begin to drop back towards the floor. So the rounding of your shoulders in this hug, this self hug, just allow those shoulders to settle backwards. Maybe intensifying what you feel into the therapy balls. Finish out 2 more rounds of breath. And then once you're done, just unwind or unbind those arms and just lifting the body up ever so gently. Maybe rock the body over to one side and then the other, just enough so you can reach those balls. And then allow the upper body to release back down to the floor and scan the back. Bring the mind and the breath there. See how things are beginning to feel, maybe a warmth, a tingling, maybe even a cooling. And then when you're ready to shift into your next posture, we're going to use our block and come into a supported bridge. So keeping the knees bent. And again, depending on how you enjoy your back bends, remembering here, the balls will be underneath us. So you may wish to start on the lower setting of the block as you initially begin to explore. So when ready, ground down through those heels and invite the pelvis up high enough just to slip your prop underneath the sacrum. So allow the tailbone to feel free here. And the low back is also available. So this block is really concentrated between your lumbar spine and your tailbone. And now getting into this is a little bit, takes some time. So usually when we practice together in class, I can come around and help you. So really feel this for yourself and come into the right position. So starting with the first ball, you can begin to, I recommend line it up to your armpit and then roll it in towards your spine. And then once you get contact into the back body, you may be able to just take that left hand and guide it a little bit lower. So this time we're aiming to get not completely to the lower ribs, somewhere in between the bottom of your back ribs and the shoulder blade. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So maybe lift that side of the body up. And then taking your arms, just snug those balls in and roll them upwardly enough. So you want to aim to where the back bend is basically generating. And I'm just looking in my video here. So basically it might be a hand's width, open hand's width distance from your armpit into the mid back. And here again, if you're thinking, no way, no how, this is way too intense for the muscles in my back, then you just shift to your inflatable ball and you work one side at a time versus having both balls there at the same hand. So begin to release through the legs. Feel the pelvis begin to widen on top of your block. And then take the arms out to the side, allow the palms to face upward. And settle the upper back into the floor and over top of your props. Explore as you exhale how the back body begins to sink and soften. Then as you inhale, you might notice as the back ribs begin to broaden, it gently on its own rolls the balls maybe a little bit out to the sides. And breathe into that broadening through the back. Smooth out through the collarbones. So as you draw your inhales in, feel the chest, the front body begin to open. Proud sternum here. The throat remains soft. And if you are good here, just stay where you are and continue with the breath, journeying in and out. If you'd like to explore a little bit more dynamic movement here, we add the arms into this posture now. So when you're ready to inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Now keep your shoulders connected to the floor. So don't lift the arms up away from the floor here. And then as you exhale, you can begin to let those arms flow behind you. And now flowing with this movement, as you inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, back down. Is this changing anything for you and where the balls are located? Do you notice as you add this movement in, is the physical body compensating anywhere? Are you beginning to tighten through the abdominals? Can you release any holding and trust to allow the body to experience how this feels? So just playing around with that. Maybe you find a particular area where the arms are in their rotation and you want to pause there and allow the breath to take its journey. You might also be at a space in your practice where you feel that you can heighten that block. And all I ask, if you do that, we want to be mindful to protect into the lower back. So you send that energy down through the hips. You can flip the block to the second setting. You might have to move your balls a little bit higher, just now that you're more concentrated into the shoulders. And then maybe bring the arms back in. Can also play around with variations of your arms. They don't have to stay straight. Maybe explore cactus arms where you rest the upper arms on the floor and you just rotate through the forearms. There's so many options here. Again, you have to turn inwardly enough and connect with where you're feeling these props and where they need to go. Let's just take 3 more breaths in whichever variation you're in, stillness or through movement. And then let's remove the balls first before we get to our blocks. So if you can reach up and just take those, place them off to the side. And then gently pushing down through the heels enough to lift your hips up, release that block out. And straighten your legs. Release the arms by the side body. And feel. Connect. And notice. And then we'll be transitioning from our backs to a seated position now. So rolling over to either hip. As you begin to swivel yourself around, you're going to extend your legs out in front of you. And starting in Dandasana, so we move our fleshy bits away so our sitting bones are nice and well connected. And then you're going to start just with one ball. And again, you may wish to explore. I'm going to switch just because. And we're going to get into our calf muscles here. So place the ball right into the belly of that calf. So right in the middle of we'll start on the right leg. And then you can allow the hands to rest behind you. Now lift the foot of your right foot so that it's floating in the air and all of the weight is resting onto that ball. And then bend through your left leg, ground down through the left foot, and then between support with that left foot in your hands, just lift the body enough and begin to roll the ball up and down the calf. As you work closer to the ankle, if you tend to be tight through there, sometimes coming out and rolling the leg, externally rotating it out to the right. You get into the outer edges of the calf and then internally rotate the leg inwardly. So again, explore which therapy ball you would like here. It depends on tightness and lots of things. And it might even be different from day to day as well. And then find a place of stillness back into that calf in an area where things are chatting with you. And then allow the ankle to release, let the foot be heavy. Great job. And then you can just bend into the right leg. We're going to switch sides. So placing that ball now under the left calf. Bend into your right leg. You know what we're doing now, and begin to explore here, up and down. Oh, hello. My left leg is so much tighter than my right. Or tender into this muscle, even as you explore rolling it from side to side. Do you feel the muscle skip over tight areas, little knots? Are there even areas into that muscle that you feel resonate down through the top of your foot into the toes? One of the most helpful things I've learned in the anatomy training of YTT was when you experience tightness in a joint, so the knee, the ankle, let's say in this case, it usually relates to the muscles surrounding that joint, so above or below. So if you tend to be tight through the knees specifically, then you notice maybe my hamstrings are quite tight. So similarly, as we come into the ankle, if you feel tightness or are weaker through the ankles, and that means that the calves tend to have some challenges there and we need some attention. So pause here. Great job. And then sitting yourself back up, remove that ball. And you're going to stay seated. I'm just going to turn for the sake of showing you what's happening. So if you have your blocks, we're going to stack them one on top of another. If you don't have blocks and you are close to a table, because the floor is too low, because we don't want to be arcing, we're going to get into the forearm. How you put your legs does not really matter. Just make sure that you're comfortable. So you want to be able to have the ball kind of at your, rib level. So if you're at a table, you're going to be lowering a little bit. If you're sitting, you're bringing the floor up. And using the ball, we come into this underside of the forearm. So this is going to be beautiful fascial work for those of us in front of a computer all day. So you begin to take the forearm and just allow the hand to kind of do its own thing at this point, and roll the ball back and forth, getting into that underside of the forearm. And then as you come back towards the wrist, you're going to stop a little bit. So you're just below the wrist here, but you're further down on the forearm away from your elbow. And then just begin to flex up and down with the wrist. And you should be able to notice some referential happening here. And if you're not, then take the ball and roll it maybe from side to side. You have to kind of land in that sweet spot that gets into the wrist. You can maybe even do wrist circles if that's more telling for you. Great job. And then staying with that side, we're going to get into the palm. So imagine you're rolling the ball. We're going to go up each side from the area of the palm up towards the finger. So when we start on the little finger edge, we start right on the edge of that palm, and then move your way upward as we work through each finger. So releasing fascial tissue through the hands. The hands can get quite tight. And then maybe just taking the ball and get all the way to the four corners of the palms of your hands. So maybe you spend some time in one particular area, maybe that fleshy part where the thumb is. Again, explore here with the wrist or the fingers. Find the areas that need the TLC. And then we switch sides. So again, come into that underside of the forearm and begin to rock it back and forth or side to side as you open up. Explore the hand resting, coming into flexion, and see where it feels best for you or where you need that release more. And then rolling closer towards the wrist. Now begin to lift and lower or take your wrist circles. You may notice some, I wouldn't call it pressure, but maybe just some heating or tingling
that begins to appear right through the tendons. So this is great for people as well with tendonitis through the wrist. Maybe hold here. And then move to the hand again. So you're taking all of those fingertips and start at the base of the palm and roll that ball up, massaging out the fingers, the palms. You can also, this is great if you keep one of these balls handy at your desk when you're working, because a desk is a perfect surface area, especially when you're just sitting, to just explore this during the day and roll out, soften into the tissues as the hands maybe get tight. Great job. So once you finish there, without the ball rolling away from you, just shake the wrists out, maybe do some circles, make sure you go opposite directions if you're doing so. And just feel maybe if you notice any warmth. We're going to take one block and head down back to our backs with both of the balls, or if you have tenderness through the neck and the spine, please use the softer ball. And as you first come to lay down, just have your block on its lowest setting and position it. If you've got your hair kind of in the way, make sure your hair is swept up and away, because otherwise these rad balls tend to kind of pull the hair out from the root. So you're aiming for basically the base of this block to come a little bit to the base of the skull. So not so far down that it's cramping the neck. The neck should be free flowing. And then take the balls and you're going to place them at the nape of your neck. So right basically on the back of the skull at the top of your neck, and place them into, or onto rather, the block. So it should be gently supporting your head. Make sure that you're balanced on each side and you're not more to left or right to left. And allow the head to be heavy. Allow the shoulders to begin to sink towards the floor, creating length through the neck and the cervical spine. And here again, for any of you who have any issues with neck and the back, please use the softer inflatable ball, and you can explore right side to left side with this ball and where that feels good for you. This should feel therapeutic, no pinching, no pain. And just connect to your breath here as you allow the body to soften. Allow the legs to disengage and roll out to their sides. Releasing your jaw. Just one more minute here. So enjoy how the breath moves through the body as you take in all of this massage,
myofascial release and a softening. And then reaching up for the blocks, just lift the head ever so gently and move those off to the side. Lower the head back down onto the block, and just for a moment, roll the head from side to side, gently massage out the back of your skull. So don't be jarring here or rushing this movement. And then rotate the block to the second height. So now that edge of the block is sitting where the balls were. And gently roll from right to left. So the corner of that block is coming into the base of your skull. Beautiful. And then removing your block. Take your time to roll to the side body. We will come back into a seated position to close off our practice with our Japamala Dharana meditation. Ah, nothing better than starting the day with some self-massage. All right. So as you come to seated again, feel balanced on both sides. And for this dharana, this is our mantra recitation meditation. So because we are not working in the room together, you're just going to, you can either say this aloud at home or to yourself. So again, perhaps closing the eyes if you wish. You're welcome to bring fingertips, finger and thumb back together for your chin mudra, or if you're using mala beads at home and you'd like to explore those and know how to utilize them, then explore that. And reconnect to your breathing. And the mantra we will use today for our Japamala will be Soham. So in Sanskrit, this means I am. So as you draw that inhale in, you say so. And your exhale, you repeat hum. Now hum is actually H-A-M. But as you cycle through this, inhale and exhale, you may notice that soham becomes more sohum. So inhale, so hum out. So hum. So hum. So continue with this repetition with your own breathing. Stay connected to the feeling of the breath as it moves in and out of the body as you repeat your so hum. If the mind begins to drift, come back to your breath, and so come. Now begin to release the mantra. Just notice your breath and draw your hands together and into heart center. So to close our practice today, we'll connect to the universal sound of Om, which we say as in A-U-M. If you'd like to explore that at home audibly, if not, you can say it in your mind, whichever feels more natural for you. Drawing a deep inhale in. It's been an honor and a privilege to lead you in your practice today. And until next time, carry peace through the body, peace through the mind, and peace through the spirit. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.